tremendous looking trophy.
Welcome to Platinum Explosion, number one PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Dylan Blight. Joining me as always, Action Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here on day 1035 of this quarantine.
You know, it would be funnier and more... Well, actually, I don't know if it would be funnier or just more daunting if you kept an actual real count going every week. Yeah. It would be like... It would be a scary number now, but also it would be like, well, that's not an extend. It's the real number. That's really how long we've been living in hell.
I give the number it feels like.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I know this isn't what you want to watch, but I was literally at work the other day and I'm like walking around, I'm like, this movies, eh? Like,
yeah.
That's the only reason I ever had to leave the house. No,
I don't like this not choosing to go out.
Yeah.
I like the choice.
Yeah, I need more choice back in my life. I don't. The world's in control of me. All right, in the trophy cabinet for this week's show, bronze trophy, a shake-up in the trophy world, a gold trophy, Vader Immortal's finally coming to PSVR, and we hit a platinum with The Last of Us leaker actually not being from Naughty Dog. And I feel weird putting this as the platinum story because it's obviously still bad, but it's good it's not them. Hey, meet somewhere in the middle. All right, so we have just a full-on news show, so let's get straight into it. First one, PS Plus games for the month. Cities. Sorry, I know it's Cities. Skylines, PlayStation 4 edition. On the PS blog, it writes, do you have what it takes to develop a small, bustling community into a sprawling megacity? In this acclaimed city builder a sim from Paradox Interactive, you make decisions that will see your city flourish and fall. You need strategic smarts to keep your burgeoning system from collapse. During your ever-growing populace, stay happy, and the industries that are lifeblood of your expanding metropolis continue to thrive. Note, this is the base edition of the game. I want to know, is there like a DLC? Something I don't know.
Yeah,
next
probably.
game, maybe. Farming Simulator 19. Not 19th in the series, but like 2019. Maybe. Oh, fucking, yeah, it could be right. Stressed by the bustling city life. Like, the synopsis for this game is literally, did that other game stress you out? Come play this one. Stressed by the bustling city life and eager to tackle a more sedated. Sure, I'm leaving it. I'm not changing that. It doesn't actually, but, you know, sedated livelihood. Rural escapism awaits with Farming Simulator 19. Developer Giants Software has packed in a wealth of architectural pastimes to lose yourself in as you set out to maintain a homestead, harvest crops, raise livestock, tackle forests, ride your own horses, or just jump behind the wheel of your John Deere tractor or one of 300 authentic farming vehicles and go for a drive. Note, this is the base edition of the game. I went for like a farmer there. That's what I assume a farm sounds like. Yeah, so it's a weird month. There was a petition going around. I had like 2,000 signatures signed where people were angry and they were trying to change the games, which I obviously find quite hilarious. Who cares? I think here's the thing. Every month, people only ever seem to get happy about these games when they're like AAA things that most people have. You know, Uncharted, whatever. Everyone's like, this is great. But what about the people who don't like those sorts of games? What about the people who like simulation games? This is your month.
Yeah. It's your month, you know?
If
you like simulation games and you didn't buy them. I'm sure all these AAA loving people, they haven't bought these games. Whereas they did the previous ones, you know? Last month, Uncharted 4. Telling me you didn't buy Uncharted 4?
Yeah. Last month's stuff was terrible, in my opinion, because I'm like, everyone's got all this, sure.
Yeah.
Like, there's no sense of discovery.
It's only for people who just bought a PS4 for quarantine.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's like between the Uncharted 4 being a PS Plus and then the collection being on the quarantine giveaway game thing.
Yeah.
Like, here, play all the Uncharted games for free.
It's like, okay, play all these. And then buy the new Naughty Dog game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, there's The Last of Us game coming out. It may have just leaked all over the internet, but that's fine. So I don't think I will personally try either of these. I've always had like a slight fascination in trying out a farming simulator game, just because I find it so meme worthy, especially the fact that we found out last year that there's a esports for farming simulator, like a full on esports proper scene for it. So I'm always like, how do these games actually play? Like, how tedious and boring is it? But then I'd have to boot it up and maybe unlock a trophy and then be stuck with 1% Farming Simulator 19 on my console forever. And that would just not be on, Ash. You know?
No, well, you just have to go for the platinum. How difficult is the platinum?
I bet you there's a trophy for like mow down 1,000 cows. I don't know.
Live one whole year in the game in real time.
In real time? I can't handle that with my Animal Crossing real life happening at the same time. Yeah, no, that's too much happening. So which game would you pick though? If you was to try out one, which would you prefer to jump into? City Skylines or Farming?
I'd probably give City Skylines a try on PlayStation. I played it on like PC and that kind of thing before, so give that a go, I guess. See how it translates to playing it with just a controller. Yeah, that's always my worry with that sort of stuff. I'm like, is it just more annoying to play because you get a controller, or is it? Yeah, you're like, I didn't mean to put that road there.
Yeah, that's why they call it PlayStation 4 edition, because it's like this edition has been purposely made for consoles and stuff like that. So,
this trophy list doesn't look too bad. Cultivate 100 hectares. Harvest 100 hectares. Reach 10 hours of playing time in a single save game. And own a bank account with 10 million in-game money.
Oh, I'm sure 10 million is an easy amount to reach in farming simulator.
Complete 100 missions. Okay, that might be to take. You know, it's 11.14% of people got the platinum, so...
Well, you can tell Ash isn't used to searching for trophy guides, because he doesn't give me the helpful information. Type in Farming Simulator 19 trophy guide. Then click on either PlayStationTrophies.org or PSN profiles, whichever one comes up first, and someone will have a guide, and at the top of every guide, people give it a difficulty, and they give it an estimated time to platinum. Estimated time to platinum is what we're after here, most likely. I want to hear it say 1,000 hours or some bullshit. That's what I'm guessing. I'm gonna go with 120 plus hours required for Farming Simulator. If I had to guess for City Skylines, which I don't care about because that's not what we're looking up, I would guess that one would be 80 to 100. Slightly less.
37 hours or 50, 60 hours otherwise with the guide.
What?
37 hours using the guide, 50, 60 hours otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. So 37 hours if you follow their strict money-making farming schemes. It's basically what it
says. It's a 1 out of 10 difficulty.
Yeah, if you follow their guide.
Yeah. What else are you doing at the moment?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. You're right. What am I saying? I'll play Farming Simulator. All right, next story. Dreams demo. In case you don't know, PSA, you've heard us talk about Dreams a lot. You're like, hey, sounds great. Would like to play some of these things. Try out. See, maybe if I would be like interested in playing the Dreams. Well, now you can. PS blog, right? Starting today, Dreams demo is available on the PlayStation Store. The demo includes access to a rotating lit playlist of some of our favorite creations in Dreams, including the Ornithologist's private collection. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Whatever. Ruckus, Kubrick, player, piano player. Wow, that's a mouthful. Art therapy, and great job, human. The demo also includes the first 20 minutes or so of the Media Molecule musical narrative adventure art stream, and for all the information you need about create mode. If you've been browsing our Dreams companion site, which is indreams.me, you'll also be able to add Dreams UC to your play later queue, and should you buy the full game, they'll be waiting for you in Dream Surfing, ready to play. If you then choose to purchase it, your save file carries over, so you don't have to restart ArtStream, you don't have to start a new profile, blah, blah, blah. It's off you go, off to the races. So that's cool. Personally, I think they should have had this at launch to help the game at launch, the kind of thing. It would have maybe had more people try it out then when wasn't so much coming out and whatever else, but never late than never. I don't know. And then never too late than never. But this also springs off a whole idea that kind of talked about before, where they should maybe, because they're saying in this demo you can play certain player creations. What happens if they make a 20 game collection that is just all games created within Dreams, and you boot it up and you can just play those in it? And it's like, hey, all of these games are in Dreams. Do you want to go find more cool stuff? Go buy Dreams. Like there's just a curated, straight up collection of Dreams games.
Well, that's what they're doing.
Well, this is a couple, but it's inside Dreams. It's like, I mean, this is booting up Dreams, and it's sort of just locking you off from having full access, but only being able to play certain things. I mean, it's like you boot up this Dreams 20 games thing, and it's just a screen where it's just got these games. Like, it's not actually booting into Dreams. It's like its own separate collected thing.
Well, it's always going to boot into Dreams because the Dreams is the engine. So
maybe in the background, but I mean, like, take it outside of the.
I'm sure they don't download the entire, whatever size Dreams is, because it cut off all the creative tools. So I'm assuming that would cut the size down a fair bit.
You'd hope so. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same as how fucking Call of Duty Warzone makes you download all of Call of Duty. It's like, why?
That's true.
You got no choice. You have to download the whole game if you want to play this one game. So I don't know. Either way, it's cool. You can now try it out. Everyone get over and check that out. Yep. Got a couple trophy stories this week, which is a good time because it's been a while. I don't really have any major PlayStation stuff, trophy stuff happening lately. But True Trophies, which is a trophy tracking website, put up this article, said PlayStation passes a huge milestone. There are now 10,000 games with trophies. So you're going to be like, well, yeah, obviously that just means there's like 10,000 games on PlayStation or whatever. But it's like, no, because not all of them have trophies. There was a period where, PS3 games didn't have trophies. Lots of free-to-play ones don't have trophies, etc., etc. It's not like an exact even count. You can't look at all the PS3 and PS4 games and whatever. Anyway, I put up this whole stats thing that I thought was quite cool. So it says, as we come to the end of the PlayStation 4 generation, the PlayStation Nation reaches another big milestone. There are now 10,000 games of trophies. A little under 12 years after first coming to the PlayStation 3, trophies are now a big part of how people play their games. From basic hard-to-miss bronze awards to the big platinums, that satisfying bling sound never gets old, except for it's not on. I don't have that sound going on PS4, but anyway. Some big hitters have awarded a lot of trophies over the years. 2018 Spider-Man, for example, has been played by over half of True Trophy's audience, while a little under 9% of all PSN players have achieved that game's platinum. Look, Ash, if you signed on to this website, you would be you'd be in the 9%,
I am in the 9%.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, the one asterisk on this is all of the stats that they've grabbed for this is only from people who have signed in for the website, which is the same as how PSN profiles work. However, like a lot of trophy hunters use this website, so it's like it kind of weeds out the the people who wouldn't care about trophies anyway. Yeah. So you get just stats more in the trophy carrying audience anyway. Yeah. The Call of Duty series, meanwhile, has been played by over 77% of our users and has over 1,000 trophies available in its 15 titles on PlayStation, not including those which launched before trophies were a thing, of course. How many trophies are available for you to unlock in those 10,000 games? The answer, 297,265 at the time of writing. That's a lot of trophies. We'll be breaking down some of the more interesting stats over the next few days on True Trophies. I mean, not us. In the meantime, check out this infographic. So the infographic, trophies, games released by year. I find this kind of interesting. Like, this is games with trophies released by year. So obviously 2008, when they first get added in, it's very low, but the number has gone up and up and up, and there's not actually a point where it ever is even or drops even. And even at 2020, they're predicting it to go up and up and up. And I honestly would have thought there could have been a year where they were like even-ish or even slightly dropped behind or something. But it's weird how as a generation goes on, as just time goes on, really.
No,
there's more games getting released.
Ratalaika Games or whatever is just pumping them out.
Oh my God,
exponentially.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I got some bad news for Ratalaika Games fans. Platform breakdown. So 57% of the games with trophies are on PS4, 26% PS3, and 17% on PS Vita. Most played games, this is, once again, as per people who have actually just logged onto this website at least once to sync their account to it. So number one most played game, God of War, 58.6% of players, 4.9% only have the platinum though. Horizon Zero Dawn, 57.1%, 5.9% have the platinum in that. Spider-Man, 55.5% of people have played it, 8.9%, that is the highest platinum rate, but it's still kind of low, like ridiculously low for a game that's not that hard to platinum.
Yeah.
Then you have Uncharted 4, 55.1%, and then 0.6% have the platinum, holy shit. And then God of War, Grand Theft Auto 5, 5.1%, 51.8% and 0.1% have the platinum, but that's not shocking to me because Grand Theft Auto 5's platinum involves lots of tedious stuff and then online and whatever else. So a little bit of different story to
the surprising thing there is the percentage of 51.8. Considering every single person on the planet has probably bought Grand Theft Auto 5. Have they just not installed it? Do they just have to use the discs as coasters or?
Well, I can tell you what I did with my 2 copies, Ash, as I've said many times across all of our podcasts here. I brought 2 copies and I've traded them back in. And I never put any of them in my PlayStation. So yes, coasters. Yeah, it is funny because then it keeps, whenever you see it pop up on the MPD charts or whatever, how many people are still buying God of War? Well, apparently everyone hasn't brought Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Auto. So keep saying God of War, fuck's sake.
No.
2 G's in one list.
It's probably like parents breaking the disc because their kids are being bad and the kids go back and buy another copy. That might be the reason. Maybe.
I'm also surprised with just how low Uncharted 4 is. Like, of all the people who would log on to a PlayStation-centric trophy website, right? Only barely above half have played Uncharted, like the key PlayStation franchise. It's kind of crazy. You'd expect it to be a lot higher, but there you go, it just says. Games by genre. The highest is role-playing with 14%. Platformer just trails behind at 13.6. Adventure, 11.4. And then it kind of drops down to the puzzle, action, adventure, visual novel, shooter, sports, turn-based, and shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em up! Really, classic genre. Most popular series, Call of Duty, unsurprisingly. It has a total of 12 platinums you can get. 77% of gamers have played Call of Duty as a series. So I guess that means at least one Call of Duty game in your trophy list, and you would count towards that, is how I would presume. Uncharted. See, this is the other funny thing. 75.7% have at least one Uncharted game, right? But then Uncharted 4 is only at 55.1. So
maybe some people started it and just didn't like it.
It's true.
Because they don't like nice things.
Well, maybe let's be real. The first one isn't exactly, rainbows and unicorns. And then Assassin's Creed. Uncharted has 6 platinums, by the way. Assassin's Creed series. 12 platinums, so tied with Call of Duty platinums you can earn. And 71.3% have at least one Assassin's Creed game. And I'd believe that because unlike Call of Duty, there's a little bit more variety to Assassin's Creed where someone may be like, yeah, I love pirates. They play Black Flag.
Yeah.
You know? They're like, I don't love pirates. I won't play Black Flag. I'll play...
Play Unity. I like bugs.
I like... Yeah. I was going to say Odyssey. I like Greek shit or whatever. But, whatever works for you. So Platinum. Trophy type breakdown. So I don't actually get what this means. So there's a total of 6,979 platinums you can earn. The average rarity of a platinum is 13.5%.
Yeah.
Which seems quite high, but I guess the really easy platinums lately over the last couple of years have been driving that number up. And then unearned is 4.9%. I'm not sure what the unearned...
That's the total number of platinum trophies that haven't been earned. Like,
for people who start it, like, with the thing. That's quite low, surely.
No, I think across the board. So nobody's got a platinum in...
4.9% of the games no one's got a platinum in.
Yep.
I'd believe it. I can believe it, actually.
So what's that? That's a bit over 100 games.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I can get down with that. So game facts have got 8.10% have downloadable content packs available. Low, right?
Maybe.
Download DLC packs only 8.10%.
You got to think the majority of these is like random one-off games.
Yeah,
like The Witness. Yeah. No downloadable content in The Witness.
Yeah, I know. I suppose that's because I get
God of War, no downloadable content.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I guess you get
except for the hard DLC that you need to download.
That would. Oh, well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Does that or does not count? Not count between the downloadable. Actually, I don't think it does because it was a patch update that added the trophy. Wasn't it? You like?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. Okay.
All I remember is it worked in my favor when we talked about it.
Yeah, shut up. 6.47% contain a trophy that no gamer has unlocked. Once again, you may be like, well, that's crazy. Like, surely at least someone has it. But there are some games where no. I know, like, all sorts of trophy websites have games with trophies that people just can't get, especially some really obscure shit, really hard stuff, or multiplayer stuff, some like really ridiculous.
It's locked off, yeah.
Multiplayer source stuff, yeah. 1.27% contain a trophy with secret details. So I guess that seems low. Doesn't that? Maybe not.
Maybe like secret as in they completely don't know.
No, like I think it means that out of all the trophy lists in the world, you know those ones that are on where you can, like, if you open up the trophies, you can press square to reveal the details. Like they're secret. So I think they're saying that only 1.2% of all trophies have that, which seems kind of low, but I guess that they only really exist in like story mode,
story-based
like games. And lots of stuff doesn't. So, yeah, I guess. 4.5% contain discontinued or unattainable trophies. I would actually think that would be a lot higher considering the amount of server shutdowns we've had and just unobtainable multiplayer games straight up anymore. Yeah, so I thought the multiplayer stuff would kind of wreck that, especially when you're looking at the PS3 base. You know, like all these multiplayer PS3 games, can you go back and get the platinums in them? And I feel like the answer would be no, but maybe they can't count those all for sure. Maybe they've only got the ones that have officially been counted as discontinued. I'm not sure. 46.88% have more than average 29 trophies. So I guess that's the average amount of trophies per game, 29 apparently. And nearly over half have more. Oh, no, hold on. I read it wrong. So, the average amount of trophies people are earning is 29, I think.
And no, this is about games. So, the games have 29, an average of 29 trophies. Just under half have more than 29 trophies.
Ah, okay. Struggling with the fact sheet over here.
Yeah.
3.42% have a platinum trophy available to unlock. That's so low.
Yeah, that can't be right.
What? Have a platinum trophy available to unlock. I mean, there's only 6,000. They're saying there's only 6,979 plats across 10,000 games.
That math doesn't add up though.
That must just be worded weirdly. Surely that's like meaning something else, but it's just worded odd. All right, anyway, leave it. Games. Average gamers. This is apparently what the average gamer that's logged into this website, trophy account, the PSN account looks like. 156 games played. 27 completed, as in like 100% is how I'd put that. 100% of trophies. 29 platinums, 3,030 trophies in total, and PSN level 22 is the average level. Now, Ash, what's your PSN level?
Good question.
You're below average motherfucker.
Probably. So I definitely don't have 29 platinums.
No, but you don't need them. I think you're only like...
I'm 15, so...
You're fucking such a basic bitch.
Yeah.
So, everyone listening, there you go. The average gamer is PSN level 22, and if you have friends that are below that, they are all basic bitches. That's just the truth of the situation now. There's no way around it. We've got facts to back this up. The only non-basic bitch at Explosion Network is me. I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. These all suck, right? Yeah. Most popular publishers and developers, top 3 developers, Ubisoft Montreal. 1 million, I guess. 1.33 million people have played their game. Capcom, 947,000 people played the games. Naughty Dog, 789,000 people played their games. And the top 5 publishers are, shockingly, Sony with 4.61 million people played their stuff. Electronic Arts, 2.89 million. And then Ubisoft, 2.47 million people played their games. That all adds up. That all seems like pretty above board for what I would expect. We're talking about Ratalaika Games, as mentioned before. Ratalaika Games. I saw this story last night. I saw this on Twitter last night, right? And as I was getting to bed. And I'm like, damn, if no one picks up this story, I'm going to have to write it up myself so I can post it along with the show. Luckily, Push Square wrote one, of course, because they're on top of the board. Sammy Barker, everyone loves Sammy Barker, writes the damn story. So we posted recently about how the PS Vita remains relevant 2020 against all odds, but support from one of the handheld's most prominent publishers is in jeopardy. Ratalaika. I still don't know how to... is that not? Ratalaika? Ratalaika, sure. Revealed today that changes to European ratings board's PEGI system could result in significantly higher fees for its titles, meaning they'll lose money moving forward. Now, just quickly, in case you're like, who the hell's Ratalaika and why do we care? It is all those really easy platinums. Devious Dungeon, the fucking Inksplosion one, all these other heaps of games we talked about, right? Imagine all these easy platinums that I've talked about and they've seen people talk about, and especially the ones where they have PS4, PS Vita, sometimes PS3, multiple regions. So people often get 9 platinums out of their games because they just get it on all regions. That's them. The alterations will see classifications for the firm's output increase from £250 to around £1,450, which is an enormous jump. The publisher notes that Guard Duty is the only PS Vita release that's paid more than £250 to get rated thus far, and this is because it's available in physical form too. Saying, quote, "We're unsure what we'll do from now." Of course, PS Vita has a very vocal fan base, and many have suggested crowdfunding platforms, including Patreon, as a way to make up monetary shortfall. With Sony having all but abandoned the handheld. However, this may mean the end is finally in sight for the underappreciated device. Alas. So, basically, one of the reasons that people keep their Vitas around, especially trophy hunters, is because of this publisher's games. Because all of their games come as... a lot of them are buy once, get the Vita version, or if they're not, the Vita version is the same price and they're all sort of cheap and everyone just is happy to buy several versions and play the game several times to get on the Vita thing. But so what they actually just wrote straight up on Twitter to help this make a bit more sense. They tweeted, starting August, PEGI will change their fees due to PS4 adopting the IARC system. The casual gamer tier will be removed, meaning the cost for new PS Vita titles release will go from €250 to €1,450. PS Vita won't be a part of the IRC. This change will make it more expensive to make PS Vita versions, as before we only had to pay €250 for one game, apart from the previously mentioned Guard Duty thing where they got the physical edition. We're unsure what we'll do from now on, as QA is still closed without a reopening time. So maybe by the time it reopens, we could do an autumn. We could be on autumn or winter time. So what the QA for Peggy and whatever is closed because of COVID-19 and whatever else. The offices, so they're unable to get help with what's happening at the moment. But in short, they're obviously not going to pay €1,450 per title to for a game that I believe, if we ever got numbers for, basically the people keep buying these Vita versions are trophy hunters. That's and I guess the amount of people buying them on Vita and whatever else is at least enough for them to be like €250 is good, because then we make up €500 or whatever it is, at least worth it. But obviously they don't sell enough to make €1,450 a worthwhile price to get the game classified and go in. So this could be the end for Ratalaika Games, Ratalaika, whatever we call them, on the PS Vita, and that, in a way, would be the final nail in the coffin for the Vita for a lot of people. Because the only time I ever see people talking about the Vita, other than if people are like, I pulled it out randomly, played this PS1 Classic, or PSP Classic, or some random shit, or Persona 4 Gold, and very niche sort of cases. The only time I ever see people talking about playing the Vita, myself included, over the last couple of years, is I pulled it out to play a trophy game that Ratalaika Games has released. So this could be it. Final nail. Here we go. You must be upset, Ash. You love it.
So sad. How now I can't get my trophies for future Ratalaika games. I mean, it sounds, it's a weird situation where Sony's done something that's had follow-on effects, but that seems like a very steep jump, almost 2 or 3 times the price difference to get your game rated. They should know it's not going to be like, there's not going to be any like MA content in their games. So I don't know. It's a bad situation. Hopefully they can figure it out.
Yeah.
Come on, Peggy.
It's bad for them as a business as well, because I just think that's a lot of their player base in a lot of ways. Like,
yeah.
If you ever look at their Twitter, they'll constantly, they're very well aware of trophy hunters being a big part of their publisher base. They're very well aware of that. They're very well aware of the fact that people love playing their games on the Vita for the easy trophies and whatnot. And they'll like often retweet and whatever respond. If you look in the comments to any of their games when they're announced, any sort of game they're publishing, and the first thing in the comments is like, this looks like so good, looks like another easy platinum. Like, this is their bread and butter. So in a lot of ways, it I don't know how much it could do them over, but I'll be definitely interested to find out. Because they do publish on other platforms. Like you can find them on Switch as well. But I really don't know how well they do, like on Switch. I definitely have never seen someone be like, yeah, man, I played Inksplosion on my Switch the other day. Great game. And the funny thing is with all their games is they're mostly fine, games. Like there's nothing, they're no Game of the Year award winners, but most of these games that we're playing for Easy Platinums, they're not actually terrible games. They're just average games that happen to have simple trophy lists, and that's the reason people are attracted to them. I know people bring up the argument of like, is adding a simple trophy list to get people to buy a game like kind of preying upon like certain audience to try and like get money at them or whatever, but I've never felt too bad because it's there's not many people doing it, and in fact they're like the only publisher that seems to play towards that. And in a lot of ways, if there really was such a huge audience for this, then you would see all games suddenly having easy trophy lists. Like all the AAA games would start coming out with easy trophy lists. If the number of people willing to buy games of easy trophies were so high, all the AAA developers would start doing it too. So it is a small number, but for an indie publisher, the number is big enough to kind of help sustain a business module in a lot of ways, I think so. And a lot of indie games they publish are first-time developers and whatever else. Helps publish them, helps give them their first footing, helps give them their first money. There's lots of ramifications to this, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in the future. Either way, sad days. Sad days for my trophy account. Sad days for the trophy players out there, trophy hunters. A moment of silence, please. That was my moment of silence. So the Last of Us Part 2 leakers, not actually affiliated with Naughty Dog rights, IGN. The Last of Us Part 2 leak was instigated by hackers, that found a security exploit. Maybe both. It was instigated by hackers that found a security exploit in Naughty Dog's older games, according to multiple sources. Journalist Jason Schreier tweeted to say that a patch in an older Naughty Dog game inadvertently allowed access to developers' servers, allowing hackers outside of the company to access footage of devs playing a non-final build. That corroborated a thread from an anonymous game developer, Pixel Butts, who had earlier claimed to know the initial hackers and went into detail on the process they used to gain access. He also claims that the initial hackers were not responsible for the leak, but that their method of entry to Naughty Dog servers was likely shared to those that disseminated the footage. Those leakers remain unknown publicly. Pixel Butts subsequently told Kotaku that the exploit was fixed as of April 30th. Neither Sony or Naughty Dog has made further comment on the situation since last week's statement. So, I think to boil it down, like, kind of what it sounds like, or like what the dealio, what happened was that they had this server thing, right? The access point in an older game, which would have to be an online thing. So maybe it's like Uncharted 2, if it's really old and they weren't paying any attention.
Yeah.
Like, that's the oldest online thing I could think of that they've got going on. So, and it sounds like the problem was that maybe if they'd found this in a more normal world, they wouldn't have found anything too juicy in there, like being able to access anything too juicy. But it seems that with everyone working from home, everyone was using this Naughty Dog server to share files and whatever. And that's how they were able to find some stuff, it seems. That's what it sounds like to me anyway.
Yeah, potentially. How did they get on the server? I don't understand. How do you hack into a PS4 game?
I don't know how hacking works.
Yeah, it's well, I think, of course, there's going to be people who don't believe this is the true story and someone's making it up. Oh, a game from 4 years ago they were able to hack in. You've had your server available to the entire public and nobody realized it. Nobody told you until somebody released the last hour of your biggest game ever. But I don't know. I guess Jason Schreier isn't going to blow smoke up people's asses. He's got like proper sources. The same sources who've been telling him how terrible it is to work at Naughty Dog are telling him what actually happened. There's no reason to
wasn't actually anyone there.
Sugarcoat it. Yeah,
it is funny because in the comments of Jason Schreier, there are people just with their tinfoil hats on, be like, "It's a cover up. They did all this because they delayed the game to fix the bugs, and now they've fixed them." And like, it's the most convoluted mess of a theory. Doesn't make any sense at all for a sane person. Anyway, that's that. It sucks obviously that it got hacked, but I prefer this where it's just shit people being shit compared to upset Naughty Dog dev leaks entire game because they're that upset about working there. That was a lot worse of a narrative than just shitty internet people being shitty internet people. Like, it's still bad, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a little bit better from the narrative point of view for what's gone down.
It's like at least somebody at Naughty Dog didn't screw everybody else they were working with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny because the people going around saying that were so sure of that. And we talked about it from that angle, obviously, the other week. It's like, you know, if it was Naughty Dog dev and whatever else. But everyone was posting about it and saying it like it was so sure. Like I saw so many people, and even Jason Schreier, I think originally had been like, maybe. Like he didn't confirm it, but he was like, it could be a possible. Like, you know, like he didn't say no here, there. Other industry insider people were tweeting like, it seems like it was a Naughty Dog dev. Like no one was confirming it, but the narrative seemed to be, it seems like this is what it's sounding like. It seems. So now I do wonder where all this, it seems like it was this, was coming from. You know what I mean?
I mean, one person jumped to a conclusion and everybody followed.
Well, yeah, but it was like everyone. It wasn't just like Reset Era or Reddit going crazy. It was so many people saying they had their own sources seeming to say that that's apparently what what had happened. So I don't know. We'll never find out.
Maybe that's the rumor that went around Naughty Dog. They're like, oh, somebody's fucked it.
I mean, that could be true.
Until they finally did discover what actually happened.
That could be true. And imagine that sort of thing, like looking at the big picture now. It's like, imagine being at Naughty Dog and hearing online that someone that you work with leaked the whole game. Like that would have just sent a sort of wave of untrust through the company. You got to wonder how they reacted to that, and how much better a lot of them would feel knowing now that it wasn't actually someone there and it just was a shitty person. Like you got to imagine that as a company they feel a lot better knowing that. Like not feel better because it's still leaked, but better than knowing that it's not actually one of the people they work with or sat next to, kind of thing. That has done this. Especially because the narrative about it being, oh, they did it because of working conditions. So then other people would be like, oh man, like, especially the people at Naughty Dog who, like, you know, you hear in stories where a lot of them are saying, oh no, I don't have it that bad. Or like, all those sorts of people are like, even more so would be like, is it that bad? Like in a different part of the building I don't know about, kind of thing, you know, like that someone would leak the entire game. Like,
Here's a random thought. Do you think Naughty Dog's going to see a massive turnover after Last of Us 2 comes out? Like, I feel like a lot of people there have got to be probably questioning their position, whether they want to be there for another 4 or 5 year cycle.
I think a lot of people leave because a lot of I mean that's just what would have happened normally in all these sorts of things. So that's going to happen either way. But I could see some of them leaving, especially with like the Kotaku story and that sort of stuff, and maybe a lot of them just staying to feel empowered that like they don't have to put up with this sort of thing and they can go work somewhere else, because there is no reason to have to work somewhere and put up with a shitty environment when there are actually lots of other companies that may not be as big, but like they could offer you the same sort of creative freedom and like ability to tell interesting stories and whatever else. Like, or maybe Naughty Dog comes out the end of this, and when their higher ups are reading about people like Rockstar actually starting to make changes, maybe that'll help send something through the industry to help it work better. But yeah, there's no, you shouldn't have to work at an indie studio only to have good working conditions and be like, oh, the narrative shouldn't be, well, if you want to work at the biggest game companies in the world, you better be prepared to deal with shitty people. What a fucking... No, get the hell out of here. What a stupid narrative. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess we don't know what Naughty Dog's going to do next, so that would be an incentive to stick around.
I can tell you what they are going to do next. They're going to have a team working on the multiplayer, because that was one of the leaks. That's
true.
So they're going to have people working on that, and that's going to be a lot of different people that weren't working on the single player, obviously. Lots of different aspects to multiplayer stuff, obviously. And then they're going to have a team staying on to support the multiplayer when that eventually launches. Maybe while they're working on the multiplayer, they're going to have a small team start on a story DLC, much like Left Behind. So then you could see a lot of the people, the team, some people may leave once the game launches, and some could stay to start working on that. And here's the telltale sign, I think, of if we'll find out if Naughty Dog is making changes for better or good. And that's going to be when, if there is a story DLC, when does it launch? Because Left Behind launched like 3 months after The Last of Us. And everyone loved that. They were like, yes, love it. Story DLC, like a couple months after the game. This is fantastic. But we now know the narrative behind that is they were super crunch mode again. You know, they went hard after the release of the game to get that out ASAP. So, and that's the same thing with this. Like, they had to delay the game to fix this. So if they magically have story DLC releasing by the end of the year, I would encourage other people to start questioning how the fuck they got that out so fast. Because really, we should not need to live in a world where developers feel they need to get story DLC out ASAP so people don't trade in their games. They should be able to take a holiday after they finish the game. You know, like take a couple of weeks off, come back in, and work on it at a normal fucking schedule. And then I can have The Last of Us Part 2 Left Behind DLC equivalent 6 months to a year later compared to 3 months later. So, just to put that out there. If the multiplayer releases a month later, I wouldn't be too surprised because they've got this, you know, test footage or whatever floating around. So they're obviously working on it at the same time. It's not like they're rushing to finish it as soon as the game's over, but we'll see. And on The Last of Us, it has now gone gold. So Press Start writes, ahead of its June 19th release date, The Last of Us Part 2 has gone gold. The announcement was made by Neil Druckmann on Instagram, who described that the game going gold when the disc begins to be pressed with the executional being put on the PlayStation Network. He went on to thank his team by saying, this is the most ambitious game we've ever made. I know I've said this before, but you won't know to what degree until you get your hands on it, just to see the care that has gone into every detail from the level design, the mechanics, graphically how the game looks, environments, art direction, characters, story, the audio design, the soundtrack. Oh my god, the soundtrack is amazing. He also went on to say that even for the team, quote, we've played this game and can't count how many times we know it inside and out, but it still emotionally moves us. I just finished a playthrough and was crying by the end of it. You would say that, Neil, wouldn't you? You would say that.
He's a crier, though.
Yeah. Just to get you, does it get you more hype? Ash, you ready to watch those Let's Plays online?
Yeah, excited to watch those Let's Plays.
Is there even a little
Twitch.tv/Explosion Network.
Is there even a little tiny part of you that's like, man, maybe I should just play it and like play it on easy and not?
No. I don't think I can handle the stress.
It's so funny because it's like,
yeah,
it's not. I don't know. It's weird. I get it, like, because it is. I know people like to pretend it isn't a horror game or whatever because it's not like a straight up horror game or whatever, but it kind of it is a horror thriller / action game.
Yeah.
Like, different segments and different levels of the game. As we've been talking about on our Last of Us replay segment with Kieran, which is coming up very soon. Yeah, different levels and different segments are. It's like this one's the action level. This one's the horror, sneaky, scary with the clickers level. This one's the action level where you shoot humans again. So, a bit all over the place, but there you go. Anyway, I'm excited. Definitely been getting more excited playing The Last of Us again. Definitely got less excited when it all leaked online and I was scared about getting it spoiled. I mean, I'm still slightly scared, but knowing that I muted all these words on Twitter and then the Explosion Network account was getting responses and I couldn't read the muted replies, I'm like, nice try, fuckers. Can't see your stupid comments. Get the hell out of here. Because I was smart. Went on my Twitter, mute all these words, Last of Us, Joel, you know, whatever. The full list that you laid out the other week. And then went on the Explosion Network Twitter account, mute all the words. Planet Explosion Twitter account, mute all the words. Like, I'm covered. I'm like, you can't. I have to start a new Twitter account for you to fucking hit me. You know what I'm saying? Get out of my life. And also, I'm just not looking in comment sections, really.
Sorry.
Only places I can trust. So don't look in the comments
Places
of
are
IGN,
moderated.
Kotaku, fucking anywhere. Get out of my life. Not looking.
Comment at explosionnote.com.
No.
With actual comments, not leaks.
Yeah, okay. I was like, no. This is a Platinum Explosion special where myself and Kieran are replaying The Last of Us and discussing our adventure ahead of The Last of Us Part 2. Today we're talking about the Lakeside Resort and Bus Depot chapters. So this chapter begins with the Twitch meme of the bunny getting an arrow for it. I don't know who the Twitch streamer is.
I don't know who she is either. I know the meme very well, but I had no idea who the actual streamer is.
I don't know. In case if you don't know what we're talking about, there is a clip of some streamer, this girl, and she's like, very upset, obviously coming off the part where Joel's nearly dead, and it cuts to, and she's already like crying, and then she's like, the rabbit appears on the screen, she's like, it's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, and then the arrow goes through it, she goes, ah! Don't know who it is. I'm sure you've seen it. It's funny though. It's a funny clip. So that's how this chapter begins, and then for the majority of chapter, we begin playing Ellie. Now, before I want to get into the rest of it, I was just going to ask, because obviously we played the DLC before this, but do you remember the first time playing it? If it was like,
I remember how special and how like holy crap this section was. Like just being like, holy crap, I'm playing as Ellie first. It's like such a big thing. But I think even just the start of this section with hunting the deer and stuff feels so different from the rest of the game that it almost it feels different, and it feels like it's got this other kind of flow to it. I think all of Ellie's, it's really interesting the gameplay difference between playing Ellie and Joel throughout this whole thing, where Joel, for many parts, you just feel like a one-man army, that nothing's stopping you from finding this girl and saving her. Whereas Ellie's section, where Ellie is almost like a one-man army, she's like full, like John Rambo. Like she is just like sneaking around, taking people out, avoiding people if she can. Like just being like that whole like blizzardy section later in this chapter is just so much fun to play. But there's such a difference in gameplay that really kind of makes it worth having two different characters playing through the section.
Yeah, I in a lot of ways I feel like this is my favorite chapter, just because you get it's like its own secluded sort of story where there's this bad guy present for this particular section, and then you got this cool switch back and forth between the characters eventually, and it builds up the tension, and it's just this alone seems like it could be the plot of a movie, just this sort of section kind of thing, before it gets back on track. It's interesting. So at the start of this, obviously, as you mentioned, you track down the deer, which it stood out to me only because of how weirdly designed it was, like especially because I played Rise of Tomb Raider early in the year, and it was like, in that you're actually hunting animals, and in this you're not really hunting an animal, you just have to hit it to trigger it to go to this spot, and then hit it to get triggered to go to this spot, and then when you hit it, the game makes it run up that alleyway and jump over the fence, and like it's not really hunting, it's just kind of triggering a gameplay series of events. So she hunts it, she manages to shoot a couple times with arrows, and then you track it down to this abandoned coal mine where it's laying dead on the ground. Two strangers appear from behind something, and they're holding. Do they hold a gun? No, they just pop out and they're like, "Hey!"
They come out holding their hands up.
Yeah, she straight away pulls a bow on them though, and they're revealed to be David and James. David explains that he wants to trade for some of the meat, and Ellie says the only way she would offer any of it is if they've got medicine. So then David sends James back to their base to get medicine, and David stays there with Ellie to watch over the dead body of the deer, the meat, the prize we've got here. So while they're in the building, they get attacked by a whole bunch of infected. They manage to survive after you do this massive battle, which obviously isn't very hard for. I know we've mentioned it several times now, but it wasn't very hard on easy compared to obviously.
I think this, especially for this episode of chapters, like I remember because this is like the penultimate part of the game. This is kind of the last kind of really major blocks of fighting that you do for most of it.
There's one more part that's supposed to be really hard in the underground part.
Yeah. But for me, it's really funny because I remember part of me was kind of dreading jumping back to Joel because I always remember the trek after Joel wakes up being a lot longer and a lot harder, and it really wasn't that much gameplay. But I just don't know why. I just had this kind of this feeling of just there's this massive chunk of just fighting going on, and I think I've just had that in my mind for most of this playthrough because I'm just so used to having to be way more methodical and planning and stressed about combat in this game compared to what it is on easy, where I'm just like loaded to the brim with items and I'm just.
I will say, ham. I actually died the most in this Ellie and David section that I did in the entire game. And
in the holding the little room section, I died
the holding the room. I died twice. Yeah,
because like random freaking clickers would just come out and bite me, and I'd be like, oh fuck. Okay,
I got twice by one just running up, or like there's at one point one drop from each side of the windows, and I thought I had it down pat.
Exactly the same.
I'm just watching one window, then one drops down and kills me from behind.
Exactly the same as me. 100%. The other one comes up, just starts biting into me. I'm like, oh yeah, shit.
Another time I'm just shooting this other dude coming up one end of the stairs, and apparently a clicker snuck in behind the other end to me somehow. I don't know. But yeah, so in a lot of ways, this was the hardest part on easy apparently, because this is where I died the most. Twice trying to do that damn holding the section. So you survive all that, and then Ellie starts somewhat bonding with this David person because they have a bit of chit chat back and forth. At first, she's very aggressive towards him and, like, shut up, like, whatever, I'll help you, you got to help me, whatever. And by the end of it, you feel like she's kind of let her guard down a little bit. And I wouldn't say she feels like she could fully trust him, but it definitely feels like she's a bit more like, oh, maybe he's okay.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And can I say, even though he's a terrifying douchebag in this role, this is maybe one of my favorite Nolan North performances.
I reckon he's unrecognizable, personally.
I know it's
him, and I still can't pick him. So
yeah, it's one of those characters. Just the character that you're like, if you tell somebody who just doesn't know that's Nolan North, they're like, "Wait, you mean Nathan Drake, Nolan North?" It's like, yeah, it's like, dude's got fucking acting chops and range, man. Like, it's just so sinister and creepy, especially in the later half of this section. That is just very unsettling.
Yeah, very much. And yeah, it's one of those things where I kept trying to pick out little, because sometimes certain actors, voice actors especially, if they say a certain word or something, you'll be like, that was Nolan North kind of thing. But the entire time, I just could not pick anything as he's playing David that sounds like the normal Nolan North isms or speech or anything, yeah. So as peace returns and they've killed a shit ton of infected and clickers and whatever else, David then starts talking about a crazy man with a young girl who murdered a bunch of his people at the university. Dun, dun, dun. It's revealed that all of the people at the university and just before then who were all part of the same gang, they're all from David's group. So there you go. Ellie pulls out a weapon at this point. James appears with the meds around the corner, and David actually just tells James to let her have them, and she takes off. James is very much like, they're not going to like this. So it seems like, and you never get a full understanding of David's dichotomy and the town leadership type thing, but it seems like he's obviously one of the high ups, but not like
somebody
the
that's
boss.
Well trusted. Yeah. I think on my first playthrough, I very much got the feeling that he was the boss, and then on this playthrough, it was like, oh no, there's a lot more kind of a different kind of hierarchy than I understand in this community or people. I think this is the villainous stupid point of the arc for David, especially, where everybody, the equivalent of the stereotype of a villain saying his monologue long enough for the hero to escape, it's giving Ellie the meds to go and get Joel and make Joel feel better.
I think it's just he did it to track her to find Joel.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
In mind,
that does make sense. That does make sense. Okay.
Yeah. And instead of just capturing her because he's just spent all this time with her, I like to think that he's like, even if I take her, she's not going to tell me where Joel is, probably. So it's easier just for me to let her go and then go round them both up in one foul swoop kind of thing. And I think he understands how much David understands how lethal Ellie can be when you see the amount of people he sends to collect a little girl and an old man, you know, so that's a proving point. But yeah, so it's sometime later, the next day we cut to, I think it's like the next morning type situation.
You get the feeling that she slept for the night.
Yeah, because she returns to Joel, gives him the meds, whatever it is. It clears him up either way, and then she wakes up and David's meds. Was it medicine?
It's penicillin as well.
Magic penicillin. Magic penicillin.
Like it's like instant reaction. Like man,
yeah. It's pretty fast.
Part of it is like okay, it's pure adrenaline. After that point, like the penicillin's done, it's starting to its job, but the adrenaline is what's pushing Joel through the actual pain of the cut and everything. Still,
nasty looking cut too. So David's men have tracked Ellie, and so then she takes off in an attempt to drive David's men away. She rides horseback through the town, big action sequence, they're all shooting at her. Eventually she ends up being knocked off the horse, and then you do this action scene where you either sneak through or go Rambo style through a bunch of houses and fight a bunch of men. I was still doing it stealth because I just find it more fun to just try and do it stealth, I guess, even though I
find it more fun. I find it, for me, very much in that roleplay aspect of it, I guess, or the narrative, is that I'm like, well, Ellie kind of has to be a little bit more stealthy, you know? I use the bow way more on Ellie than I do on Joel, because Joel Joel is at the point in the game where he's a walking armory. Yeah. Like, you just have that many weapons.
Weapons hanging off him.
Just like you have that much stuff that you're like, I'm good to go.
One thing I do like is when they split them up, but it's how they don't give him all the guns. Like she has a couple, and then he has a couple too that were left behind or whatever. So they kind of split between them.
And also, there's also like the Left Behind DLC explains where she got a bow from, because you kind of at this point of the game. I remember thinking when I initially played this, oh, that's Joel's bow that she's just taken to go hunting with, and then you kind of realize, wait, no, they're both using a bow at the same time. Okay, sure, whatever. So it kind of that does fill it in.
We got her bow last week in the
exactly in the Left Behind DLC. Yeah.
After she sneaks through these sections for a while, she ends up being knocked out by David though, and taken to his town and locked away as a prisoner. We then cut back to Joel, who wakes up to find there's still some of David's men looking for him. He manages to take out a few of them and then take two of them in for quote unquote questioning, but more or less torturing, because he he manages to get Ellie's location out of them, which is the important piece of information. But also this scene is another big piece of the pie towards what kind of person Joel is, in that he not only tortures them with zero fucks or care, but then he does it brutally. And then even when he gets the information he wants, there's not a single piece in him that's willing to let them go. And that shot of him just being like, yeah, cool, what up, bang, like shoots the dude in the head. It's that.
And just be like, yeah, I trusted him. I trusted the first guy. Like, I knew the first guy was telling me the truth. I don't actually need you.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, there's something about this second playthrough, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just having a second playthrough. It's like I did a second playthrough of The Walking Dead Season 1 that I'm continually comparing these two because of the relationship between the two main characters. Man, I love Joel even more in this game. Like, there's not even that much of me being like... I remember the first time being like, holy shit, Joel, you are... No, I'm like, no, this dude is a man on the mission. Like, this is just... He won't let anything kind of get in his way. He's just gonna smash through it, and it's I like that in a character. I like it in a main character because it makes him so different from many other main characters that are, you know, that kind of run-of-the-mill goody two-shoes that runs by the law and everything that we get a dime a dozen of. I think this kind of shows a very gritty and more realistic kind of man that's survived for 20 years in this apocalyptic wasteland.
It's funny you say that because I feel like my time playing my second time playing the game, and what I'm realizing more and more, and we'll probably discuss it more when we talk about the final section next week, is I'm just more and more deciding that Joel is just the bad guy. Like, he is, and not to say I don't enjoy that, because it's I'm feeling similar to Joel in the same way I kind of feel about watching Breaking Bad, where the main character that is actually goes from
the bad guy.
The whole structure of Breaking Bad is literally taking someone who sets out with good intentions and is originally a good guy doing bad things but for good reasons, and by the end of that show he's just a straight up villain. And I feel like a lot of the time I've spent in the second playthrough, I'm feeling very similar to Joel, and we can pin in that because I definitely feel like that's a lot more relevant to talk about when we get to the next week, obviously. But yeah, so then we cut back to Ellie, and David's been trying to talk her into giving up Joel and joining them, and blah 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 blah, all this sort of stuff.
And he starts getting even creepier.
Starts getting even creepier, and things get even weirder when Ellie starts realizing that there are dead bodies all around, and they are definitely cannibals. I mean, they definitely. I mean, and that's one thing I kind of don't like about this segment, because I just feel like it's the stereotypical zombie movie where people turn into cannibals stereotype, which seems to happen in literally every zombie story ever. There's always one group who turn into cannibals.
But that's because I think it's kind of, even though it is a stereotype, I think it's kind of sadly it's like a very almost realistic thing you could see happening of some people at that point, like 20 years in after everything's happened, like
turn vegetarian at that point, surely.
Some people just done that, especially in America. I could see Americans doing that 100%. Like, especially these kind of, not to single any place out, but especially Southern kind of people, I could see them doing that, turning to that kind of measure, because they shouldn't have to stop eating meat. Would there be their kind of thing?
Americans more likely to be cannibals? ExplosionNetwork.com. What a quote.
in a very extreme situation, not easily turned, saving my butt a little bit there.
So she manages to, when he comes in and talks to her later, he's like, "That's it, I've had enough. Given up trying to help you out here and talk you into joining our group." And him and James take her out of her prison cell thing. They put her up on the table, and they're pretty much about to cut her arm off, is what it seems like, when she uses her bite as a way to distract them, because she pulls down her sleeve and says, "Look, I'm infected. Now you're infected because I've bit you," or she scratched him or whatever earlier, and all this sort of stuff. And it's enough of a distraction that he starts questioning and talking with James, and given all that, Ellie manages to grab and kill James quickly, like with the axe thing or whatever that was there, the cleaver.
With like a cleaver.
And then she manages to run out the door, grab a knife, jump out a window, and you then spend this next section crawling around in the snowy town as David's out looking for you, and he's got his men chasing after you as well. I nearly died in this section, actually, because I got seen once and this person started shooting at me, and I just ran towards him and managed to survive the last amount of health. By the time
I had a yikes moment where I crawled into, like, I think it was like a comic book store or a bookstore of some kind, and I didn't actually look in the door, and I walked through, and it was just a moment of me stood there and two guys just stood immediately looking at me, and I was like, oh fuck, like, whoops. And luckily you can kind of cheese the AI a little bit, where you kill two, and then when the person comes up running over, you can kind of just hide until you get around them and just, stealth kill them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting portion.
Yeah, it is. Eventually she manages to make her way to this. I was going to say a bar.
It's like a steakhouse. It's a steakhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I was about to say a restaurant, but yeah, steakhouse is probably right. Yeah. And then you have this boss fight, and I've wrote it down as really the only real boss fight in the entire game, which is interesting considering it's not the end of the game or anything.
I don't know if it's just it being on easy, but even just everything about this boss fight was just like, it was really quick, but I remember it being so much tenser. Normally, I think it's because I knew what to do. And I also knew to like avoid plates and to like somehow I think when I first went in there, I managed to walk around. I didn't know that I couldn't remember that you had to go to the front door to trigger the actual boss fight starting. So I literally walked around the entire restaurant first. So I kind of was like, oh, I know where all the plates are and stuff. Cool. All right. I know where to grab a bottle from to distract him. Cool. And then I was like, oh, okay, whoops. You go out. And it was just very simple. Yeah, like maybe 30 seconds to a minute. Like,
yeah, it didn't take me long. But I think a lot of that is knowing what to do, and that means not wasting time trying to figure out what to do. Whereas the first time you are in any boss fight, really, where you don't know the enemy's weakness in any sort of game, unless it's straight up Call of Duty, where it's like, shoot the fucking person, like. But for this type of thing, you're trying various things, like, do I throw the bottle at his head? Do I do this? Do I not do that? But going in being like, the only way to hurt him is I have to distract him and then shiv him. That's, there's no fucking around, which speeds up the whole process. And maybe playing on easier means that he was less likely to spot you.
Receptive or something?
Maybe, but I honestly just feel like the boss, I feel like it'd be the same on any difficulty. Maybe he'd do more damage if he actually hit you, but I didn't get seen once, so whatever. Anyway. It's a fine boss fight, but it's, simple design. It works better the first time, I feel, because obviously going to be more tense and stressful. I think not knowing what to do and crawling around and whatever else. But after you manage to stab him a couple times, they both get knocked out and fall to the ground. You then cut back to Joel, who's just arriving at the town. And see, this is where I like all this stuff, because he's arriving. You got all these people on alert. You fight your way through the town, and then you see the building on fire where Ellie's knocked out, and then it cuts back to Ellie. Like, a lot of this just seems more cinematic. Yeah.
And it's even stuff like, the guards talking as they're kind of running into position to being like, oh, the infected one, we need to find her, like blah blah blah, like. And it's just very, as the audience, you've got that meta knowledge, you understand what they're talking about, but Joel in that situation doesn't. So it's it's a really good section. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Then we come back to Ellie, and she wakens back up, and she begins trying to crawl for the machete. David tries to stop her and begins taunting her as he gets on top of her. Ellie manages to hit him with the end of the machete after she quickly grabs it, and then she gets on top of him and pretty much goes to town on, I presume, slicing his face into 1,000,001 bits as Joel eventually arrives and stops her and gives her a hug in an attempt to calm her down. I remember the first time playing it, finding that whole David's section super distressing. Obviously, I knew it was going to turn out okay this time because I know what's happening. But I just think the implication that they ride that fine line of just really implying that David was probably going to do some
messed up stuff,
fucked up shit to Ellie. So and I think in an interview, someone asked Nolan North. I can't remember the official word for it. There's an official word for the type of predator that David is, that Nolan reckons is what Neil Druckmann told him or whatever for the direction. And it's basically someone who's into specifically girls aged 12 to 14 type thing. There's apparently an official name for that or something, but that's the kind of predator apparently he was supposed to be playing. Imagine being that your direction though. Not only are you potentially playing a rapist, Nolan North, but there's very specifically one with these fucked up intentions. And just play this scene where you're gonna possibly do horrible things to her. It's really weird considering he plays a hero character all the time. And
it's such a massive leap away from that character and everything.
You think you know me? Huh? Well, let me tell you something. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
Can I say, Joel kind of hugging her and calling her baby girl and stuff in this section? Oh, I'm God, my heart melted a little bit. I'm
it's the most. I think that section, especially him being hey, baby girl, and all this sort of stuff. I think it's the most sign we've got so far in the game that he's kind of adopting Ellie as his new daughter because that's obviously what he was calling Sarah at the start of the game. So they drop lots of little specific things, and it's purposely saying baby girl, because he could say something else, but that's supposed to be a surefire hint. So next section of the game is kind of short, I think. Like, on memory, I think it took like half an hour.
I actually thought this was longer than I remembered.
I did too. I was surprised.
There's a whole section that my brain just didn't remember.
I think it's longer because the fight at the end took me a very long time playing it on normal difficulty.
In the
underground?
In the underground? Right. So I felt very, overall for this section, throughout this whole thing, I felt so cathartic throughout the whole thing because I knew where we were going. I knew what we were leading to. This is the most purest relationship moment between Joel and Ellie as you're leading up. And then at the same time, in the same section, I had this moment of revenge where I ran out to the two bloaters and just like went to town with everything I had on me, like flamethrowers and everything, because I was like, I know this is the last infected section of the game. Like there's no more infected except for one little bit after this point in the game. So I was like, say hello to my little friend, like throwing Molotovs and just like spraying everything with flamethrowers. It was really fun because I remember that bit that really sucked. That last little section, especially with the two bloaters and the whole bunch of clickers, was the worst.
Yeah, I remember that taking me forever because it was quite hard. That's why whenever people like talk about beating this game on harder difficulties, I'm like, yeah, not for me, dude. No, thank you. Anyway, so it says spring, so we skip ahead a month. Could be long, like it could be 2-3 weeks. I don't know. Either way, it's sometime later. Spring now. Joel and Ellie are arriving in Salt Lake City, and straight away you can kind of see the hospital off in the distance where the Fireflies are supposed to be, and that's your goal. So straight away playing this chapter, it's very like end game territory. Here we go, hospital. Let's get into there. And you constantly like. I remember the first time playing it, being like, okay, what's going to happen? Like. That type of thing. And I think that's why the giraffe thing works so well in a moment, because you're constantly like, what's going to go wrong? And that's the first thing that kind of happens in the chapter, because after you make through these first few bits, I think the other thing obviously to point out is Ellie is psychologically scarred from the events that went down in the previous chapter somewhat. She's very quiet. Even Joel's pointing out that she's not talking much.
I think for me, I interpreted that as not psychological about what's just happened, but more part of her, like having this internal battle of, I want to do this thing, I want to see out this journey, but at the same time, do I stop spending this time and having this relationship with Joel as soon as we get there? Like, I think she kind of is going back to that moment of, is this the moment where Joel walks away from me again? And Joel walks out? Like, is this that time again? And I think she kind of completely forgets that because of the giraffes and because of, the short section after that. She kind of leaves her completely, but there's definitely that section where you have to, like, she sat alone as you're trying to get her to jump up and grab the ladder that you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, yeah.
I really just wanted to be like, another fucking ladder. Like, fuck. God, old age, these goddamn ladders. You make me climb them. Get the hell out of here. So eventually Joel has to put her ass into gear as you do another one of these silly ladder puzzles, which hopefully aren't or are very not much in the second game. And then when she gets up top, after she throws down the ladder for Joel, she starts chasing after something. What is it? Is it a monster? Is it a clicker? Is it a firefly? What is it? Joel chases after it and it's revealed it's actually a giraffe on the outside, walking past the building. And then you get, obviously, one of the most memorable moments in the game where you can stop the two of them pet the giraffe, and then you can just stay there for as long as you want and just watch these giraffes.
I stayed there for a good 5 minutes.
I think I did too.
And I think it's part of me is playing this after, in a world where I've played both of the seasons of Life is Strange that give you...
I was going to say, because Life is Strange, all those moments, I just sit there for like 5 minutes as well.
It gives you, and it's kind of used to that, where you kind of sit there listening to the music and stuff. Yeah. Like, I like, there's... For Life is Strange in a Small Town, like there are songs in real life that I listen to now that I have a very emotional relationship with because of Life is Strange, because I connect it like that. So just in this moment to sit there and just look out with Ellie, and that's where my kind of cathartic feeling was coming from, was just, well, crap, this is the last time I really sit here and, the relationships feel so pure and so perfect for a moment between these two, and this is before everything kind of goes to shit and before Joel makes certain decisions. Like, this is just this is it.
It is funny to point that out, like, in retrospect, because you obviously don't know it the first time you're playing it, but it is when you know how the game ends and everything that happens after this, that is literally the last time they have a moment together of just sitting somewhere and chilling. And obviously that's why the game lets you sit there and relax with that. However, I feel like there's two things. When I played it originally, these sorts of moments of just sitting there and just taking something in, I feel like I wasn't that kind of player, and I was more like, all right, let's keep going, let's get to the story, let's fucking go. But I definitely feel like either getting older or just like appreciating different things since I originally played it in games and movies and whatever else. All these sorts of moments now I just love in stuff, and especially as we mentioned, like the Life is Strange, because I take those moments in Life is Strange as just relax. Like, there's a moment of peace in this game at the moment. Just chill, enjoy the music. The music's purposely chosen to sort of get you in a certain side of emotion. That's what the developers chose, and just sit there and chill out and have a think about what's happened and what could happen. And, there's no rush. Just relax, stop chilling. So yeah, if the second game weirdly added more moments like this, I wouldn't be complaining. I don't know.
No,
because I can't quite enjoy them. So yeah, after eventually when you leave, be it 10 seconds later, be it 5 minutes later, be it 10, whatever you decide to do, they begin moving down this stairwell, and it's at this moment that Joel asks Ellie and points out to Ellie that she doesn't actually have to do this. They could just go back to Tommy's place, start a life, whatever. No need to do it. And then Ellie responds by saying, "Yeah, but no, it can't be for nothing," which is sort of like a key sort of quote from the first game, obviously. And they continue on. They stop at this army medical setup, which is just outside the doors, where Ellie gives Joel the picture of Sarah Tommy had that she obviously stole. This time Joel thanks her for it, whereas he obviously shook it away when Tommy offered it, and then says something along the lines of, "You can never escape your past." So then they head on a bit further and they enter this underground section. They enter an underground section where there's a ton of infected, as I was just talking about, where you have to fight your way through, and there's clickers, bloaters, whole heap of stuff. Eventually they land on top of this bus, and then they're working their way across it. However, it begins to move because it's got this flow of water coming through this like sewage thing, I think is what I took it as, like some sort of waterway or something like that. And the bus gives way and begins moving down the rapids. Ellie has made it off at this point, and Joel gets thrown into the bus and he's stuck in it, but Ellie decides to jump back on top of the bus to help Joel escape, which she does help out. However, of course, Ellie cannot swim and she gets caught by the rapids and chucked underneath. Joel then swims out, grabs Ellie, comes up from the water on the other end. Luckily, they've through this whole process made it to where they actually needed to be. However, Ellie is not breathing full, so Joel attempts to give her CPR, and as he does, someone starts walking up to him, this dude with a gun. If you pay attention and you're looking, you can obviously see that he's got a Firefly emblem on him, which I don't know if Joel realizes that in a moment and that's why he keeps going, or he just doesn't care either way. I don't think Joel
looks up. I don't think Joel looks up at all through this moment. He knows that somebody's there.
Yeah, I just think he doesn't care.
He's just solely focusing on saving her. Which I'm like, this guy's a douchebag for hitting him. Like, he's clearly trying to save somebody's life. Like, what the hell? I will say I did forget after this section, after you like escape from the area with all the infected, there is like hey, before we finish up the game, one more pallet and ladder section. And I'm like, you
it's so
jerk.
Pointless. I don't know.
Force feeding gameplay down my throat.
It is the most old school gameplay design where you play for that whole thing. You're like, why? This wasn't a hard puzzle. It wasn't even a puzzle. Anyway, we've talked about those silly things. So the Firefly guy, as Joel keeps trying to do it, eventually walks up, just smacks him in the head, and he goes unconscious. And that's where this chapter ends. And that's where this segment ends. And I mean, that's it. That's the game over. No, we've got one more section, of course. Next week, we'll be talking about the last 2 chapters or chapter plus epilogue, however you want to go about wording it for yourself. So we will see you here next week in either Platinum Explosion, where you can listen to this segment first, or the YouTube version, which comes out a day later. In that, we'll talk about it then next week.
I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
PSVR for the players.
That's right. VR. It's a thing. PSVR. It is indeed a thing. We haven't talked about it for a while. We got 2 stories. Two important stories to talk about this week. Enough to the point that we had to play that lovely little intro for you. So Sony is finally thinking about moving on from PS Move controllers, it seems. So IGN writes the story. Sony has published a new research paper discussing the development of a new controller that detects individual finger movements. A video uploaded alongside it demonstrates it being used with a VR headset, suggesting that Sony is working on a new Valve Index-like controller for potential PSVR 2 hardware. So the picture and the video in the article and whatever, however you want to look at it, it's basically, it's an analog thing they're gripping with a box coming off the side that obviously is able to, like, the motion tracking or whatever the hell technology in it or whatever, and they do show a graphic hand or whatever in the PC, where they hold up the peace sign and whatever else, and it is tracking fingers, kind of like how Valve Index works, and even to a point where my Oculus controllers, where I can point with my finger. Like if I put my thumb and my index finger up, it's able to track that from those 2 like controller points, and you can kind of do that in games. We can like point and give thumbs up to people and these sorts of things. So it seems they're working on similar sort of technology and stuff. The paper, written by Sony Interactive Entertainment's R&D engineers Kazuyuki Aramatsu and Hideki Mori, details the evolution of machine learning techniques in regards to hand pose estimation. Essentially, it discusses how machine learning in combination with a proximity sensor equipped controller can estimate the position of fingers and then replicate it within a virtual environment. This follows on from a patent published earlier in the year showing a controller equipped with finger sensing technology. The video demonstrates that the controller, which here very much looks like a prototype, or at least non-consumer device, and the virtual representation of hands when different movements are made. The controller's proximity sensors are able to detect when each finger is touching or lifted away from the device, and the software is able to fill in the blanks and animate gestures, allowing for motions such as rotating your thumb. No external cameras are used to observe the user's hands, which is a solution used by Oculus for the Oculus Quest headset controller-free interface. Yes. Oh, that's a... Yeah, I haven't talked about it on here, obviously, or anywhere, but Oculus did at this update, like late last year, I think it was, or whatever, where you can now, if you don't have your controllers and you're on the main menu, it'll just track your, like, it just picks up your hands somehow. I don't know how it works, like, magic-wise. You can just hold your hands out, and, like, you can literally Minority Report, like, just 2-finger drag the menu across in front of you and, like, select options and, like, click on games and, like, type in the keyboard and whatever. And it's really quite weird because you're just like, what do I, like, it's all, how's it work? Like, what?
What's it? Apparently there's a bunch of cameras inside that's it, tracking your hands.
Oh, there are cameras, but, like, I want the technology itself to be able to, like, recognize when you hold out your hands that these are your hands and this is what it wants to track. You know?
Same Kinect technology.
I fucking don't know. Either way, it's cool, and it's kind of like the first
Just
step.
Dance technology. Maybe.
It's a first step towards no controllers, I guess, like sort of being able to do rudimentary type shit without any controllers at all. My only worry with this, because although I'm excited that they're posting patents and videos talking about tech and whatever else, they're posting videos and talking about tech. They don't have this, you know, I want this at launch of the PS5. I don't want it to, 6 months later. I want it now. I'm sick of these fucking Move controllers. I hate them. they're terrible. Like once you've used any of a motion VR devices controllers, the PS Move controllers are abysmal, and it's that should not be a shock because they're fucking PS3 controllers. They're fucking they're ridiculous. I can't believe we're still using them. Anyway, yeah. What do you think of this? What do you take away from this? Is this just them fucking around, or what do you reckon?
No, I think they're definitely working towards new PS VR controllers. I don't know if it will be anytime soon, though.
Not based on this.
No. Unless they get like some outside help or something. So, yeah. Sooner we get better controllers, the better, because, you know, these controllers, we hate them. Like Anakin hates sand.
Talking about Anakin, PS Vlog. Vader Immortal, the Star Wars VR series, is coming to PlayStation VR. This is written up by Mark Miller, executive creative producer at ILMX Lab. That's what it's called. Today, I'm excited to let you know that Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series, is coming to PlayStation VR later this summer, and the series will be available as a complete series, all 3 episodes, and lightsaber dojos available for purchase together for the first time. Then goes on to talk about creating the game and all this sort of stuff. What I can tell you, though, is you want to play this. So, this is definitely...
You want to play this. I don't know if you like Star Wars at all, but you definitely want to play this.
I will put it... Let me boil this down for everyone. Do you like Star Wars? You want to play this, if the answer was yes. Do you like VR games that are good? Was that a yes? All right, you want to play Star Wars Vader Immortal. And as much as... I'm going to put an asterisk on this and say that... Because I think I mentioned this on Arcade Couch and I still haven't rectified this. No, I still haven't played the final episode because I got pissed off that I had the fucking story spoiled for me. But I know how the general game plays and how everything goes. And I know how the fucking story for the final episode finishes, that's for sure. And overall, it is a fantastic experience from a gameplay perspective and a story perspective. However... playing on PSVR will definitely be worse than the Oculus because of these fucking Move controllers, man. It's fucking... Anyway, Move controllers aside, and however they managed to make it work and make all that stuff works, I don't know. It's going to be... I'm still hoping it turns out to be a good experience. It's just going to be... That was a great experience. But the setup for this game, in case you don't know, I'm going to pitch everyone. You play as this dude, and you're in the ship. This is how the game begins. You're in the ship, you're out exploring, and you're like, oh man, having a great time, looking around for some artifacts. All of a sudden, I'm spoiling the first 5 minutes of the game. It's fine. You'll survive.
Jeez.
All of a sudden, you're dragged out of hyperspace.
Continues.
Yeah, I know. You're dragged out of hyperspace, and you're like, oh man, what the fuck? Why am I getting dragged towards this planet? What the hell's happening? You're getting dragged towards Mustafar. What the hell's happening? You get taken down there, you get taken prisoner, and then the game begins. Darth Vader walks in. Scary as fuck. This literally one of the scariest things I've ever seen Darth Vader is in VR, having Darth Vader approach you from the end of a corridor. Because, like, you're sitting there, like, strapped in a, like, with your hands tied behind your back type scenario or whatever, in a, like, standing up thing that you see them use in Star Wars. And then the doors, like, open at the end of this corridor. Smoke, shit. You see the shadow of Vader. And then you hear, and he fucking approaches you. And like, holy shit, you are tall and you are scary and get out of my life. And I hate it. And that's all I'm going to spoil about the setup because that part's amazing. And then as you get further into the game, it's not really a spoiler to say, yes, you do eventually get a lightsaber. And the lightsaber combat is amazing. And it's the part I'm worried about most with the Move controllers. However, I'm hoping it's not too terrible because just simply the tracking and it's very specific. And then this is actually one of those games where even when you're done with the game, those dojo labs things that they mentioned here, lightsaber dojo labs, that's actually one of the coolest parts of the game because you can basically just boot up these test dummy rooms, but the lightsaber combat is so good in the game that playing those lightsaber dojo things is so much fun. And I presume they'll have like high scores, challenges, and this sort of thing. Because I think that's what they did in Oculus version. I think if you had friends that played it gave you like their scores and whatever else. So it's like got that arcadey feel. But there's like, they start off pretty simple, where it's like, you just have the little droid thing that traces Luke around, and you got to practice, hitting the little bolts back at it and that sort of thing. So you do that sort of stuff first, and then eventually gets to a stage where they add droids who have like electro vibe batons to fight you with, and you literally have to, it's not just wave your lightsaber around like a maniac and try and hit people. It is hold it there, and you have to predict where their attack will come from based on the motion they're swinging, block it, get the parry in, and then go for the opposite side hit. Like, it's legit combat, and it works, and it's cool, and it's fun, and it's really, really good. So yeah, this is cool. This was announced on May the 4th it was announced on May the 5th in Australia. It was announced on May the 4th in America, because that's how time works. So that's very cool. I'm glad the game's finally coming. And I guess the other interesting thing from this is that I didn't think this was ever going to come to PSVR, simply because it was an Oculus funded, published thing that was made for Oculus, I thought, and that was going to be the go-to thing. And they were having Vader Immortal as a big selling point there for quite some time. Like, buy an Oculus, play Vader Immortal, like, get it in this package, get a code with it, inside the box type thing. But I think maybe this sets the standard that for future Oculus games, they may be going to have like we'll keep it on our platform for like a year, and then after that point, we'll be happy to push it out and put it onto other platforms like PSVR and whatever else following the fact. I think that's kind of what this is showing. Yeah. Are you excited for this though?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know it probably isn't going to play as well on PSVR because of the Move controllers and because it is not an Oculus. But yeah, I'm keen to check it out when it comes out eventually. Hopefully.
Yeah. This is the other thing with this is, I think I talked about this because when I talked about getting my Quest, and I originally talked about it on here last year or whatever it was. And I talked about how one of the first things I played was Immortal Episode 1. And because with the Quest there's no cords and everything, I had the most lost experience ever because the whole game is kind of designed where, because you have the two analog sticks in both the controllers, and then you can turn your body just 360 to walk around. The combination of all that meant I just kind of got lost in my room, but it also made it so much more immersive because I would just be looking around and whatever else. And we know the PSVR doesn't do that as well. Like, you can turn around, but it expects you to turn back and face the camera.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't expect you to fully turn around. So I guess I'll have to adjust some of the game slightly to make sure you can turn around like faster, easier. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, the slight adjustments. I think if I can get my hands on it, cheap, review code, one of these options, I would be happy to play it again on PSVR. But otherwise, yeah, it ain't going to be better than my old Questy over here. Sorry, everyone, or your PC VR, whatever you want to do. But yeah, everyone should be excited. There's at least one other good PSVR game coming this year. You got Iron Man, Vader. That's it. That's all we know about everyone. Yep. Everyone go buy PSVR. You got 2 games coming this year. Anyway, that'll do it for this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. You can follow us all on Twitters by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. Until next week, remember that every trophy counts. Not the Ratalaika ones though, because you can't get them on your Vita anymore.
Oof. Well, there's just no new ones.
Yeah, sad. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.